Welcome back to The Aligned Singer. I'm so excited that you're here today because today we're talking about a shift that can happen if you want to go from kind of haphazardly approaching your singing career to being like a professional so that you can be a professional in your singing career. Before we dive into this whole juicy episode of Going Pro, let me introduce myself. My name is Sarah Hockey, and I'm a professional classical soprano, and I'm a voice teacher with an expertise in vocal technique. That's my mamma jamma. That's my mainframe. I just made mainframe up. I don't know. But I love teaching about vocal technique. However, that's not the only part of your training that's going to move your singing forward. Working on the inner work and some shifts around your mindset and strategy around how you actually approach your work around your career can really help you succeed with more ease and be more consistently showing up for your singing practice. And that's what we're talking about today. Here on The Aligned Singer, I am completely obsessed with connecting the dots from where you are now to where you want to be in your singing life and singing journey. And that's what today's episode is all about for Going Pro. And guess what? I'm your bel canto bestie. So I'm going to spill the beans on not only your vocal technique and my expertise as a voice teacher, but also everything I know from having a professional, successful career now for many years as a classical soprano. And today I am spilling the tea on Going Pro. The concept of Going Pro, I first encountered it when I was listening to an interview between two authors many years ago. And it really stuck with me because even though I was already a professional singer at the time, I was aspiring to greater heights in my singing career and still am to this day. And my guess is you are too. And when I heard this conversation about Going Pro, it sort of opened this little door for me. And I was like, ooh, I want to go through this door and think about my career in this way. So I'm so excited to impart this to you today so that you can try it on for size and see where this can be adjusted in your mindset and also how you organize your life around being a professional singer to have greater success. So what is Going Pro? Okay, in the world of singing, it's very easy to identify because there are a lot of hobbyists in the world, people who love to sing as their hobby. Maybe they volunteer in their church choir, maybe they're in a band, but they don't really get paid for it. They only get paid a little bit, and it's their hobby. It's their interest. It's their after work activity. Those we would call avocational singers who have a passion for singing, but do not want to pursue it at a professional level or make their living from it. And my guess is that that's not you. My guess is if you're hanging around in my world of The Aligned Singer and everything I do, that you aspire to have a semi-professional or fully professional career as a singer, or at least perform and think about your singing at a professional level. This is going to help you approach it such a higher level. My guess is that you're not that, by the way, and that you actually want to make a living through your voice, just like me. As a professional, going pro, or an aspiring professional, going pro is a really big deal. This book, The War of Art by Steven Pressfield, it's one of the many books actually on my bookshelf. If you're just listening, just gaze deeply into your earbuds. But to my right, to your left, there is a bookshelf in my home office where I film the video version of The Aligned Singer. And this book sits on this shelf. I've read it a lot. You can see it's very much dog-eared. I've written in it. I have a sticky note in it right now. So this is one of the many books on this bookshelf that deals with this really interesting topic of fear and resistance when it comes to creating art. That's not what this episode is about. However, the first time I really understood what Going Pro meant was during this interview with Steven Pressfield. And I will read you a couple of little snippets from this that I think will inspire you. But before I do, I want to explain that he was talking about Going Pro. I just feel like authors who talk about this, it makes the most sense to me. It's like Imagine an author sitting down at the computer or a typewriter. I like to fantasize that it's a typewriter with nothing coming out. Like you're sitting there with a blinking cursor. Haven't you heard authors talk like that? But they're sitting there. Now, that's going pro because they made a date with themselves to write, and you must sit down and write during that time. Now think about it for you, for your voice. Have you ever made a date with yourself to practice or rehearse or vocalize or do the other behind the scenes stuff of your career, like networking, organizing your auditions, working on your website, your digital marketing? I mean, come on, I could go on. And not showed up, or worse, just not made a date with yourself and been like, oh, I'll learn that music when I need to. I'll practice when I need to. That's the difference between pro and hobbyist amateur behavior around your singing. So let me break it down for you. I really started to understand this better when I was already a professional. When I was singing at a professional level, I realized that there were certain things that needed to be in place to support my singing, like learning repertoire. Oh my gosh, this is such a great example. Have you ever done this? I hope not. But if you have, you'll see yourself in me, and we're going to have compassion for that and do better next time. So, and go pro is what we're going to do. So what I would do is pick out a bunch of arias from the Performing Arts Library in New York City in Lincoln Center when I first moved to New York. And I'd be like, ooh, I want to learn this and this. And I'd like learn a little bit of this song or learn a little bit of this piece and this art song and this aria, and then to go do a bunch of other stuff. And it would just kind of be like whenever I could, because I was supporting myself with a full-time job at the time. So it was like whenever I felt like it, on the weekends, whenever I had a burst of energy. Or, great example, I went to the Metropolitan Opera all the time when I first moved to New York City. And have you ever had this experience? I would come home from the show and I'd be so revved up. I'd be so full of inspiration that I would want to practice. That is hobbyist behavior, not pro. Going pro means, it doesn't mean that you're not inspired after those things. Of course you are. But going pro means that you actually have strategy around the repertoire that you're learning, when you're learning it, when you're rehearsing. When you're being paid for a performance, don't you think that you actually sit down? I'm going to give you an example from right now. I literally just got hired to be the soloist for a concert, and it's been bothering me all day long that I haven't yet. I just got hired yesterday, and it's 24 hours, and I'm like, too long. I need to go in my calendar and literally time block. I'm not joking you. I time block my time to learn the repertoire before this concert in several weeks. And since it's only in several weeks and this was a last minute invitation, I have to time block. But that is not waiting for inspiration to strike. This main thing that I want to impart to you is somebody who is a hobbyist or just doing music for fun might come home from work and be like, I feel like singing. Maybe they sit down at their piano or keyboard and they sing a little bit. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with bonus things like that, but what that's doing is this, and this is what this conversation with Stephen Pressfield helped me realize. It's waiting for the muse to strike, waiting to feel inspired. So, like I did after those concerts in Lincoln Center or operas at the Met, I was like so inspired and so reared to go, even late at night when I would get home. But sure, the muse was striking. Here's the difference between that and an amateur and hobbyist, or approaching your career haphazardly and approaching it like a professional. When you approach it like a professional, you do not wait for the muse to strike. You actually show up to practice, no matter if you don't feel like it, and no matter if you're not in the mood. It doesn't matter if you don't feel creatively inspired. And I'm going to give you a secret in just a second, but just imagine the writer who wants to write their dream novel and has other things going on in their life as well. They don't have, literally nobody has all day to do our craft and doesn't have to take showers and brush their teeth and sleep. So the person who actually shows up consistently is the person who gets the project done and gets it out into the world, aka can become a professional. So for you, I wanted to tell you this little secret that I found as I've started to prepare for this performance engagement, and as I've had a career for 18 years, maybe something like that, a long time professionally. When you actually show up to the commitment that you make to learn your music or rehearse, or it could be other things too. It doesn't just have to be singing, actual singing. It can also be working on your career or working on your website. Maybe you block out 45 minutes that's just for your digital media and your digital presence, and you actually show up. Let's take music because it's my favorite example, to vocalize and learn music and work on repertoire. You know what happens? At least it happens to me every time. The muse visits and the inspiration strikes because I sat down at the piano or stood at the practice stand, at my music stand in the other room where my piano is, to actually learn music. I get in the zone by showing up and starting. And that resistance, we're going to talk more about resistance in just a second, but that resistance that shows up fades. Usually it's about 10 minutes in, and then I'm rearing to go and ready to sing. But the transition can take a little bit and be frictiony. But the point is, do not wait for inspiration to strike, because then you are signing up for an approach to your career that is haphazard. And guess what? If you approach your career haphazardly, tucking it in here and there whenever you feel like it or whenever you feel super creatively inspired, your success in your career will also be haphazard. It will also be hit or miss, because that is the energy. If you're distracted, come back to me, because this is very important. That's the energy, the haphazard, I'm here, I'm not here, I only do it when I feel like it. That energy is the same energy that your career is going to give back to you in terms of the success that's mirrored back to you. If you're consistent showing up for your various practices as an aspiring professional or a professional who aspires to greater heights, that's when that's going to be mirrored back to you. The energy is going to be mirrored back to you. So I have a dirty secret, and it's that I already recorded this episode once, but there was something wrong with the audio, so I'm re-recording it for you. And I listened back to the whole thing earlier today to remind myself of the best parts. And one of the things that I was saying in the earlier iteration of this episode was amazing and came to me in the moment, and it was to treat your career like a relationship with an entity outside yourself. So working on your voice, your technique, your repertoire, and working on your career, start to treat it like an entity outside of you and a relationship with a person. Pretend it's a person. So this is great. This is the perfect segue. I'm so excited how this sequenced this time around for you, because I think you're really going to understand it. So if you're distracted again, come back to me, because this is important. So, and you may want to listen to this a couple of times. So if you treat your career and voice and instrument like a relationship with another person, what would that person say about you? Would they say that you're a consistent presence in, quote unquote, in their life, that you consistently show up and you're supportive and you're nurturing and you're kind and you're there whenever they need you? Or would your career and voice person say, yeah, she shows up every once in a while. She's here sometimes and like super into me, and then she ghosts. I mean, doesn't that feel terrible? If you've ever been ghosted by anyone who pretended to be super into you or love bombed you, it really hurts your feelings. Do not do that to your talent and your career and your voice. Please do not do that to yourself. You deserve to show up consistently, and your talent and your gift that needs to get out into the world also deserves that you show up consistently for it. Treat it like a relationship that you want to show up consistently for. So if you struggle to be consistent in the way that you show up to practice, show up to learn repertoire, show up to update things in your digital media, show up for auditions, search for auditions, whatever it is you're doing, and you feel like you're really struggling to be consistent, step one, absolute step one for going pro is to work on creating a container like boundaries. Think of it as a bubble around your time with your craft. And I won't kid you, resistance might show up, habits might show up, etc. Interruptions might happen, but your job is to try and stay as focused as possible during the time that you've set aside to sing or vocalize or practice or learn something new or get ready for a show or audition or self-tape or work on your self-tape practice, etc., etc. I could go on all day long about how many things we can work on in our careers. So your job is to carve out a safe space to do those things in. I have a much earlier episode of The Aligned Singer where I talk about doing a fill in the blank exercise where if there are things that are keeping you from being able to show up consistently, how you can actually address them and flip them. I actually have 2 different episodes where I talk about this. So go and search for those if you need to find them. But for our purposes here, I'm just going to say, I had this great example in the prior recording of this that I gave. So these days my mom visits me and I have the house that I'm in my home office. I'm in my home office is really small. And my mom has started to visit for lengths of time and stay as my guest. But I often have professional engagements that I'm getting ready for. So what I'll do is simply communicate. Hey, Mom, I need to practice. I have this concert coming up that she's usually going to come to. I'm going to be focused over at the piano for XYZ amount of time. Usually it's around 90 minutes or 2 hours. And I'm just going to do my thing over there. Are you cool? Do you need anything beforehand? So what we're doing for that bubble, that container around a sacred practice time that needs to be protected, because as a professional, you have to protect it because someone is paying you to perform. We'll talk about that in a second. I have so much to say on this going pro topic. But see, it's simple communication. And if you need to go deeper on this and there are other like tangled up things happening that are blocking your ability to show up consistently and be in that consistent partnership with your artistry, then check out those other episodes after this one. You can queue them up so that you can really get some practical, actionable tools to do that. But that's the one example that I'll give you for today in my own life of how I create that bubble around me, even when I have company visiting. Now we're going to take a turn and talk about strategy on how you actually treat your performing career. So the first time I heard about creating your team, creating your circle of support around you was in my acting studio in New York City. We were taking a mindset course around career, performing career, and we talked about having this network of people supporting us. And we took the example of, I actually talked about her on the Future Bio episode. We talked about the example of Audra McDonald. Who does Audra McDonald have? So Audra lives somewhere near me up in Fairfield County. I'm pretty sure she lives around here. A lot of Broadway stars live around here. And she has people like, oh, this is so great. And this is all going pro. And don't worry, I'm going to name some things. And if you think, well, I can't have that, like, I'm not famous, I'm not rich, let that thought sit over on the side for a second, because we can get resourceful together and get you resourced and have you thinking about how to go pro in this area. So once you are able to show up consistently for your artistic practice, which is just your relationship between you and your artistry, that's just you. Next, you need some support around your artistry. We all do. All performers, we are not solo creators. We need support around us. So somebody like Audra probably she has a car and driver. She has a nanny, or babysitter. She's got a hairstylist, a makeup artist, a stylist that helps with clothes for performances and gowns. She also has, and these are even more important than the ones that I just listed, so if you're distracted, come back to me, a voice teacher, a coach to coach her on repertoire. Now I'm pretending because I'm not sure if she has these things, but an artist who's professional also might have somebody coaching them on their health and nutrition so their instrument can stay in the best shape possible. Remember, your voice is in your body, and your body is your instrument, is what I'm trying to say. So you may have somebody helping you with nutrition and health and well-being, massage therapist, somebody like that, acupuncturist. You are probably going to have, I already said, a vocal coach, somebody who's actually working on repertoire with you. You might have an audition coach. You might have a career coach, a mindset coach, etc. You definitely have a voice teacher. I'm circling back to that one because that's my favorite, because I'm a voice teacher. Somebody who can really help support your technique. You probably have an acting coach, and on and on and on. Maybe you have a favorite photographer that you work with. Maybe you have and on and on and on. So before you say, well, I can't have those things, like I don't have the budget for that, I'm not famous, blah, 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 blah. You can have these in your own way. Start to think creatively about you as a professional and the support that you need around you. That was my dog shaking her little leash. If you heard that little jingle, that's Bella cheering you on. That's so funny because in the first iteration recording this episode, she did the same thing around this time. That's so funny. So you can get resourceful and find ways to have voice lessons, coachings, take acting class, etc. You can even work on repertoire with friends. You can have, if you don't want to have somebody like a mentor or a mindset coach, maybe what you do instead, which would be totally free, is develop a little accountability pod where you have a group text thread. I have this for singing and I have it for voice teaching, where you're communicating with a few really supportive, wonderful, like-minded people, and you're all supporting each other. A lot of professional artists do this, and you can totally do this. Are you starting to see that there are different ways that you can start to create this? I'm thinking of it right now like a bubble around your artistry and career that support you so that you can be at a professional level, even if it's before you're being actually paid to sing. You can start to bring that energy into how you approach pursuing your career. And let me tell you, as somebody who gets paid to sing, there was such a big difference when I started to actually sing professionally. My day, my life started to reorganize around my craft because that's my profession. And also there was a paycheck tied to it. And for me, maybe you're similar. For me, as soon as I started to be compensated for my work, I started to know, okay, so my day needs to look like da 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 because I'm a professional. And I hope that you can start to embody that professional singer energy, even as you're aspiring to be professional or to be more professional or to have more gigs. And here's a little secret that I want to introduce you to. So into my career, I was years into my career, one of my colleagues put on her own concert. And I didn't know this. I knew I was invited to an amazing concert of art song for voice with a soprano and a pianist. And it was just the two of them, and they were doing all this art song. I can't recall if there was a world premiere on the program or not, but I think there might have been. As I think on this memory, I'm like, I think there was a world premiere on this program. There were composers of American art song in the audience. It was a big deal. There were a lot of heavy hitters in that audience. And I'm going to tell you what, as I said, I was years into my professional career, but I was really impressed by this concert and really hit me. And I was like, that was amazing. And we were good friends. And so I saw her at rehearsal and we were debriefing and talking about it, or maybe we were hanging out or something, and we were talking about it, and I realized that this was an entirely self-produced, self-put together project that the singer and pianist put together themselves and created out into the world. And I would have never known it. I actually thought initially that they were being paid on a concert series to do this concert, but it was that high level. Nobody was phoning it in. Nobody was treating it like a side project. It was their main, I said this in the beginning of the episode, I think, so main mamma jamma. It was their main thing. And the energy around it came across like that. Everything from the invitations to the program, to the graphics that they used, to the way they invited people, to who they invited and who came, was all high level professional work and really inspiring. When I later learned, they just made this up. They just made this up. But here's the thing. This is why I didn't want to say this at the very, very top of this episode. Going pro, first you have to figure out how to treat yourself and your relationship with your artistry like a professional, to show up consistently, to have consistency in your artistry, like we were talking about, not being this gal who ghosts the other gal. I'm thinking of myself, two ladies, like not ghosting and actually showing up. You have to be able to do that first. And then you've got to make sure you have a team of support around you so that you are performing and executing and creating at a professional level as well. And I'm sure, as I said to you earlier in this episode, this was a gold nugget, so I hope you didn't miss it. But if you did, here it is again. The energy that you're giving to your career is the energy that's going to come back to you. Remember how I said early on in this episode that if it's a haphazard energy and scattered, you're going to have haphazard and scattered success. If it is consistent, focused, you're showing up consistently in that relationship between you and your artistry, the success is also going to have that energy because you're the one introducing the energetic pattern of how you think about subconsciously, how you treat, and other people are going to reflect that back to you in the level of work you do and how often you work, etc. It's really important. That's a really gold nugget I wanted to revisit. So in this example of my friend's concert, she showed up like a professional, even though it was self-funded. She was the one paying for everything, or they were. But she showed up and treated it like a professional project. And so the energy around the project was professional. And it's kind of cool that the audio was messed up on the earlier recording of this Going Pro episode, because from then till now, me processing all of my emotions like, oh my gosh, oh no, when am I going to redo it? Well, right now, because guess what? I'm a professional. I was not expecting to do this today, but here I am because I'm a professional. That's a little bit meta, but it's also true. But from then till now, I thought of more of examples to give you. So right now in my singing career, I'm preparing to do my first album, and it is a strange project because for many years, people have paid me and then I've showed up to sing. People offer me a contract, I show up to sing, I get paid. A recording project is not like that. It's a lot like this concert example that I'm giving you. And guess what? The reason I'm telling you this is I have watched, especially over the last 6 years, I've watched my personal friends and close colleagues do recording projects that get nominated for a Grammy Award. I'm not exaggerating. I'm a classical musician, so if you're singing pop music, you might think that I'm talking about Billie Eilish and who knows, all those people. I'm not. I'm actually talking about my friends. The people that are nominated in the classical category are friends of mine, and I've been slowly but surely interviewing them to learn about their process of recording albums. Here's what's so cool. The world recognizes these works of art, these albums that they've put together, as extraordinary pieces of artistry. For example, I am not making this up. For example, yesterday I finished my day of teaching. I get in my car, I'm heading home, and on the radio is my friend's, good friends of mine, album. And the guy introducing this on the classical station is like, yesterday I was telling you about, it's this early music ensemble that I'm obsessed with, Acronym. Yesterday I was telling you about Acronym and I played the blah, blah, blah for you. Today I'm going to tell you what the acronym, I learned what the acronym stands for. And it stands for, and he said what the word acronym, what my friend who founded the group, what he made it stand for. I took a picture of my screen on the radio and immediately texted my friend. Think about this. Here's what I know about this project, like the insides of some of these other projects after I talk with people. There was no benefactor funding this. This was a self and collectively funded album, and that's the same with every single other person. And these are albums that are winning major worldwide recognition. They're being put out into the world. And my friend, that is going pro to the highest degree. But let's take my friend who had the album that I was hearing on the radio yesterday. So cool. It gives me chills. I love it. It's called their Valentini album, and it's really good music. I'm a Baroque specialist, if you didn't know. So with Baroque era music, I'm so into it. It literally gives me chills. But to say it to you is probably really why it gives me chills, because I want you to understand, if my friend that founded this and is the main person at the helm of these projects, if he hadn't treated himself like a professional, those recordings might not have gotten made. There was fundraising involved. There was tons of logistics involved. There's a lot of people in that ensemble, like maybe 13 people. That's a lot of logistics for 13 professional musicians to get together and record an album, but they did it. And they have 6 or 7 albums, maybe more, probably way more than that. But the reason he could do it is because he treats himself like a professional. He also is a professional. But I am convinced that even if you're in the pre-pro stage of your career, that you can start to create the habits and the patterns and the mindset. Remember, this is inner work, kind of married with outer work. The mindset around treating yourself like a professional. And then the success that mirrors back to you elevates. And that's what I want for you. Let's leave it there. That is what I want for you. And that makes me want to say what I say on every edition of The Aligned Singer. You have a gift inside of you. You have something that's meant to come alive inside of you. And if you are treating it haphazard, only when the muse strikes, practicing only when you feel like it, only when you feel like being creative, you are slowing your progress massively. And I have to leave you with this. I promise. I forgot to read you my passages from the War of Art. I think actually this is a beautiful way to close our time together today. This is really reserved, as I was saying, fear and resistance in creativity. It's something that I struggle with. Around this album that I was just telling you about, I'm literally going to start to reread this book, and then also Big Magic, which also talks about fear. It's over here somewhere. Oh no, I put it back on the shelf. Before I started filming, I put it back where it goes. But it's going to come up when you start to level up in the way you treat yourself as an artist. It might kick up dust. In fact, it probably will. Why? Because you're creating new habits. You might be creating the boundaries we were talking about earlier on in this episode. It might mean that you have to have conversations and things need to change and shift, maybe in small ways, maybe in bigger ways. There's lots of support on the Aligned Singer for you for those bigger ways, for sure. I've got you. You are supported here. But it's normal for fear and resistance to come up when you are breaking through to a new level in your singing career. And if you've been stuck, I feel called to say this. If you've been stuck at one level in your career and in your singing pursuits, and you know that deep inside of you, you are ready to break through to operating at another level, to a higher level of professionalism, more opportunities, maybe it's more visibility, then going pro and treating yourself like a pro, part of that is also handling the fear and resistance. So I'm going to read you these two passages that I picked out for you today. This book is called The War of Art. Again, it's by Stephen Pressfield, and the subtitle is Break Through the Blocks and Win Your Inner Creative Battles. So as I'm telling you about these recordings and fessing up that I'm preparing to make my first one, I have felt so much. This is really me being really real. I don't know if I've ever been so vulnerable in the present moment with you, but the reason I teach you the stuff that I do is because it's stuff that I use myself. I'm not blowing smoke up your tushy and telling you to do things that I don't do. This is what I do to continue to elevate my professional singing career, and it's what I lead my students through doing as well. And this is what it takes to go pro. You're going to feel, you might, I think you will, but I hope you don't, but probably you will. That was so convoluted. You know what I mean? I don't want you to have any struggles. However, it is going to be normal for going, I told you I was going to be vulnerable. Let me tell you that story first, but it's normal for this fear and resistance to come up. In my life, it's doing this new thing that I've never done before, AKA creating an album. And of course, I've been reaching out to these amazing colleagues who've created incredible work to figure out how to do it and to let that confusion or resistance lessen as I actually learn the ropes and how to do it. So fear and resistance might come up for you any step along this journey of going pro. For example, if you need to create better boundaries and habits around your singing and showing up for your singing practice, as if somebody is paying you 10 grand for the performance, as if, even if they're not, even if it's you have to learn this piece to get ready for an audition. What if someone was paying you 10 grand to do it? You'd show up for it. But if you don't have that carrot dangling in front of you and you need to create the boundaries, you might have fear and resistance around making that adjustment. I just want to say that that's normal. It's normal if you've been stuck at one level in your career for a time and you want to dissolve that ceiling and move to a new level in your singing career. It's normal for that resistance to come up because you're doing something new. You're growing. You're becoming a new iteration of yourself as a professional artist, pre-professional or not. You're becoming this new iteration of yourself as an artist. So before we part today, I hope that this inspires you. The first one, it's right here. I underlined it in orange and rewrote it in my own words. It's my favorite passage from this book. And it says, "Never forget, this very moment we can change our lives. There never was a moment and never will be when we are without the power to alter our destiny. This second, we can turn the tables on resistance. This second, we can sit down and do our work." And sitting down to do your work is that image that I gave you in the very beginning of this episode of The Aligned Singer, where we were talking about an author who sits down and said at 9:45 a.m. on a Saturday, from 9:45 to 10:30, I am writing. And they're sitting there at 9:45 a.m. on a Saturday and nothing is coming out. But guess what? They can sit down and do the work and the muse will visit. The creativity will come. No distractions, no phones, no interruptions, but that is their sacred bubble. And because you've made that sacred bubble around your creativity, the creative muses will start to visit you because you are showing up in this new energetic way as a pro. You're going pro. The last passage I want to read to you is where my little sticky note is. If you can't see me because you're not watching, then you can hear the sticky note right there. Here it is. And I wrote yes, ginormous, and underlined it in a zigzag 17 times. Resistance and being a star. This, I felt so called out with this because early on in my career, I was thinking that I was just going to like somehow stumble onto the Metropolitan Opera stage without actually doing anything to get there when I was in the audience at those performances. And let me tell you, my friend, with a lot of experience now behind me and my friends on that stage, I'm like, that's not how it happens. Also, I don't think I'm really meant to sing at the Met. I like singing chamber music. But I felt so called out reading this because my 23-year-old self needed this. Grandiose fantasies are a symptom of resistance. Have you ever fantasized, am I outing myself right now? That you're like doing the thing, winning the award, I don't know, on the stage, a superstar, big audience, big bank account, I don't know, whatever it is that's your secret fantasy. Have you ever done it? Well, let's start this again, because if you have, I definitely have. Grandiose fantasies are a symptom of resistance. They're a sign of an amateur. That word that I taught you today. The professional, this is so important, so if you're distracted, come back to me. The professional has learned that success, like happiness, comes as a byproduct of work. I'm not even done, but I'm going to read that again because that is what I want to tell you today. The professional has learned that success comes as a byproduct of work. And what does work entail? Showing up for your artistry. I digress. Let me continue. The professional concentrates on the work and allows rewards to come or not come, whatever they like. Now, the most important piece of that is that going pro means that success shows up because you showed up to do the work. And that's where I'll leave you today. Show up to do the work. Nobody else, I feel like I'm going to cry. Nobody else has your gift. I say this to you every time we spend this time together. And I'm going to say it to you again, and I'm going to hit this book on my knee because it's helping me make my point. Seriously, though, no one has your gift. No one can practice for you. No one can learn your repertoire for you. If you learn languages, nobody can learn diction for you. You have to do it yourself. You have to learn the technique yourself. And you have to show up for yourself in order for you to learn it. You are the engine behind your gift that you have been bestowed with from a divine place. That is what I believe, that from an otherworldly place, you've been given this incredible gift. The world needs it. I was telling you at the beginning of the episode, we need more singing in the world. We need more amateur and hobby singers. But let me tell you what, we also need you to be up on that stage in the recording studio, however you present your craft to the world, however you get your voice to the ears that need it, we need it. So you have to go pro. You have to move through the resistance and fear just like I do and have since I moved to New York City in 2006. You have to move through that resistance and fear in order to go pro because people need what you have to share. People need to hear your interpretation of that song. People need to see you on stage. They need your energy up in front of them. That's what we need from you. And I'm not blowing smoke up your tushy. I know that as a fact. So if you needed that little pep talk about going pro, there's your pep talk. I'll leave you there. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me at Voice Teacher Sarah on all the social platforms. For me, all means Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. And you can subscribe and get all the episodes of this show wherever you listen to your podcasts. Right now it's on Spotify and Apple and on YouTube. And you get to watch if you're over on YouTube and Spotify. So I hope you enjoyed that. I believe in you so hardcore, and I can't wait to see you next time we get together on The Aligned Singer. Bye for now.